Testing. It works. Play loud. Bad ear. Play loud.
Ladies and gentlemen, shall we get started? Let's try that again because I don't think everybody heard me. Let's try this again. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good Shabbos. Shall we get started? So, for those of you that were here last Friday night, and you were so disappointed that I was also not here, I apologize, but you know what they say. You know, Bacha had been out of town for a week, and so we had made a reservation at a hotel downtown just for the two of us so we could have some time away from the kids for a little while, and then I got strep. Yes, I got it from you. And we all got it from Carly, who got it from Rebecca. Raise your hand. Patient zero. Patient zero. That's what we get for bringing in new members of the congregation. They share everything with us. But anyway, what can I say? So the sermon that I was going to deliver last week was as a response to a question that I had received from Julie Rockland and others, specifically about what the H is going on in Israel right now. So what I did was I got some feedback from a colleague of mine, Alden Salavi. If you know anything about Hebrew liturgy and poetry right now, he's one of the biggest writers of Hebrew poetry. And he made Aliyah a number of years ago, and so I had him give me some feedback on my sermon. So I'm actually going to deliver last week's sermon, updated a little bit tonight. So when I say that it's Shabbat Hagadol, I'll say that it was Shabbat Hagadol because that was last week. And the service that I put together was a lot of Israeli kind of music, which we're going to do because we didn't do it last week, because it's always good to have Israeli music. So the first song that I'm going to play, there's going to be two videos tonight, the opening song and the closing song. The opening song is a song called Uf Guzal, which it'll have the words in translation so you'll be able to read what they're saying. But it's literally a song about these hatchlings that are leaving their nest for the first time. And it's a beautiful, beautiful song, and it really teaches about independence and what it feels like to have to be the one to see your hatchlings go away and all the emotions that come with that.
הגוזלים שלי עזבו את הקן, פרסו כנפיים ועפו, ואני ציפור זקנה נשארתי בקן, מקווה מאוד שהכל יהיה בסדר. תמיד ידעתי שיבוא היום שבו צריך להיפרד, אבל עכשיו זה ככה בא לי פתאום, אז מה הפלא שאני קצת דואג? גוף גוזל חתוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים, גור לך. עכשיו נשארנו לבדנו בקן, אבל אנחנו ביחד. חבקי אותי חזק, תגידי לי כן, אל תדאגי, ביחד כיף להזדקן. עוף גוזל חתוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים, גור לך. אני יודע שככה זה בטבע, וגם אני עזבתי כן, אבל עכשיו כשבא הרגע אז מחניק קצת בגרון, מחניק קצת בגרון. חתוך את השמיים, טוס לאן שבא לך, רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים, גור לך. רק אל תשכח, יש נשר בשמיים, גור לך.
And now I'd like to invite Joan Brand from the Sisterhood, the president of the Sisterhood, to light our Shabbat candles on page 2.
Creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'chad ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you, Joan. Page 7. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished? Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat, abide. And before we continue with the singing of Romemu on page 17, I would like to take a moment to invite people to speak about good things that happened in your lives in the last, let's say, 2 weeks, because I wasn't here last week. I know there's at least one birthday today. Yes. You are a birthday boy, Michael. 84 years young. I think that karma is that the day you were born was a Good Friday. Yes.
I celebrated a birthday on the 4th of April, 3 days ago, and I was 76, but I too was born on Good Friday.
All right. Another
Also from Seder.
another Good Friday. We already know that you got a job, but you can say what you actually did this week. But not only that, the picture of her signing her contract is all over the web. She's our token Jewish teacher. Not that there wasn't any other ones in this district. Anybody else? Yes, Wayne.
Brother-in-law and his girlfriend came to visit us for 3 days from Brainerd, Minnesota,
Wow.
which was 20 to 40 below.
Oy.
So I could see why he was motivated to come visit us.
But now he's back to 2040 below.
Yes, he is, and he's frozen.
Let it go, Wayne. Let it go. Yes, Naomi.
My grandson just graduated from one level of karate to the next, and he's 8 years old.
What belt is he?
Now he had the white belt with stripes on it. Now he gets the solid colored belts.
All right.
The first one is a camo.
Wow. Congratulations to your grandson. Yes, sir. Which reminds me, get on the email that I sent you. Uh-huh. That's what they all say. Maybe I'm behind. I'll go check on it. 6 months and a day. What a wonderful thing. And they're getting married right here, so but not on Friday night. Any others? Okay, in that case, we'll continue with the singing of Romemu on page 17. And while I bring the choir up to lead us in Lecha Dodi on page 20, I would like to say that Jay Kreisman is not in trouble. He's not. He didn't get sent to the principal's office. But when I created the cue sheet for last week, he wasn't going to be here. So when I did it for this week, I just forgot to add him in. So it's not that he is in trouble and can sing whenever he wants. Anybody coming up from the choir? Ikrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela shamor v'zachor v'tibor echad hishmi'anu elham yuchad Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'letila, lechad dodi, lekrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabela, lekrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava techila lechad dodi lechad kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela Hitoreri, hitoreri.
I'm okay.
Ori, shir daberi, kivod Adonai alayech nikla, lecha dodi, lekrat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam v'simcha u'v'tzahala Toch emunei am segula Boi chala Lecha dodi lekra
Shabbat Kala Pene Shabbat Nekabela.
Thank you very much. You may be seated for just a few moments. Thank you. Isn't it great to have the choir in any shape? Although we are missing a male voice. So if you are a male or you have a male voice and you'd like to sing in the choir, please join us. Bottom of page 25. And so we understand that ordinary people are messengers of the Most High. They go about their tasks in holy anonymity, often even unknown to themselves. Yet, if they had not been there, if they had not said what they said or did what they did, it would not be the way it is now. We would not be the way we are now. Never forget that you too yourself may be a messenger, perhaps even one whose errand extends over several lifetimes. Please rise once again for Chatzi Kaddish, page 26. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah v'yamad divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael Ba'agala, uvizman kariv, v'meru, amen. Yehesh me'rabba mevorach, le'olam u'ol me'almaya, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudesha brichu, leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran b'yalma, V'meru, amen. Page 31 at the bottom. I know that the tide is not an independent force, but merely the submission of the water to the movement of the moon in its orbit. And this orbit in its turn is subject to other orbits which are mightier far than it. And so the whole universe is held fast in the clinging grip of strong hands. The forces of earth and sun, planets and comets and galaxies, blindly erupting forces ceaselessly stirring in ripples of silence to the very depth of black space. We continue with the Shema. I do invite the choir back up. Page 34. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai
Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. We continue chanting the V'ahavta on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam livanecha, vedibarta bam, beshivtecha bevetecha, uvlechtecha vaderech, uvshochbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'ha'ilatot afot bein einecha, uchtavtam Amezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, lihiot lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. Page 39, we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Micha Mocha, page 40.
To
Page 42. We're going to be singing the Chatima, the final sentence of the Hashkivenu. Baruch atah, atah Adonai, hapurei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim, ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim, shalom. Baruch atah, atah Adonai, hapurei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. I'd like to invite the choir back up to sing Yismechu on page 44. Yismechu ve'malachutecha
Shomrei, 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 Shabbat, Vikorei, Honeh, Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat, Vikorei, Honeh, Shabbat. Mikadashei, Mikadashei, Shavim, Shabbat. Yisbehu, Yitagumi, Jubeh, Shabbat. Yismechu, b'malachutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat, Vikorei, Honeh, Shabbat. Yasmi, Yatzitabo, V'kidashto, Shabbat. Yamim, Tokarata, Shabbat. Yismechu, b'malachutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat, Vikorei, Honeh, Shabbat. L'masei, L'masei, Bereshit, Shabbat. L'masei, L'masei, Bereshit, Shabbat. Yismechu, b'malachutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat, Vikorei, Honeh, Shabbat. Yismechu, b'malachutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat, Vikorei, Honeh, Shabbat.
Thank you, choir. Yes, we do 2 times through the chorus at the beginning, once between each verse, and then 2 times again at the end. Otherwise, it goes on and on and on and on and on. And then we never know when to end. We turn now in our prayer books to page 46. I invite you to rise for the tefillah. Adonai, Sefai Taitivtach, Ufi Agite Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shmo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, Melech meimit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. We continue on the bottom of page 55. The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week we live under the tyranny of things in space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to the holiness of time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Page 57. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answers to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, shodcha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. Page 59. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh lehodot. we take a few moments now for our own silent thoughts and prayers, our own silent meditations on page 62. For those of you that may not have seen the news today, there were at least 3 different terror attacks in the land of Israel. And although our love for Israel is never ending, and although our hearts go out to all of those who are in need of healing and strength and any kind of need that they may have, the most important prayer that we have as a Jewish people, as a race of human beings, is a prayer for peace. How appropriate that our song for peace this evening, which you can find on page 353 in your Siddur, is a song written by Jews and Muslims together about peace. Od Yavo, page 353.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'shalom, salam, salam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'shalom, salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kulam.
And now we turn back in our prayer books to page 253. And we think of all of those in our community here and abroad that are in need of healing, whether it be mind, body, or spirit. This Shabbat, we consider in our prayers for healing the names of Michael Barron, Naomi Berman, Herbert Brinker, Steve Danzig, Tracy Duquette, Yocheved Bracha Bat Devora, Isabel Hutchins, Dr. Ann Kaler, Elise Kaplan, Kathy Katz, Sharon Kennedy, Jean Kincaid, Leslie Lado, Ruth Martin, Linda Nicolette, Anat Prager, Hillary Katz Regan, George Kaufman, Moish Rosenblum, Christine Ruckman, Jackie Sachs, Terry Stein, Dr. Hossein Tehrani, Bonnie Tillman, Elisa Zeman, Jean Attic, mother of Mildred Olstein's daughter-in-law, Roger Bell, friend of Barbara and Barry Adler, Patrick Clifton, husband of Sarah Clifton, Harriet Cohen, cousin of Mike Newsonov, Joe Coltrera, son of Kathy Katz, Beverly Gordon, mother of Amy Schwartz's daughter-in-law, Amy Hodges, daughter of Diane and Richard Lawrence, Kim Comrade, daughter of Rita Singer, Sheldon Lieberman, friend of Barbara and Barry Adler, John Lodich, cousin of Rachel and Daryl Etheridge, Helen Newman, mother of Marcel Schwimmer, Richard Paulus, friend of Betsy Brody, Hillel Roebuck, cousin of Dale Berman Garfinkel, Ann Sack, sister-in-law of Betsy Brody, Elizabeth Wadbrook, friend of Betsy Brody, and Nicole Way, friend of Barbara and Barry Adler. If there is a name you'd like to add to our prayers of healing this Shabbat, please raise your hand. We think of all of them. We consider in our prayers of healing. With page 253, we sing Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Uyavarech V'rabeh et hacholim Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Uyavarech V'rabeh et hacholim Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Uyavarech V'rabeh et hacholim.
Last Shabbat was Shabbat Hagadol, the Shabbat just prior to Pesach. There are several reasons for the description Hagadol, the great, for that Shabbat. One reason refers to the special Haftarah portion for this Shabbat, Malachi 3, verses 4 through 24. In this reading, we read of the great day of God when the Messiah will appear on earth. And yet, another idea suggests that we are preparing for this Shabbat, for the retelling of the amazing and awesome story of the Passover, which we read and retell every year. On a very small side note, when I was in Israel the last time and I had dinner with this wonderful Israeli family that hopefully Batya and I will get to spend dinner with again in a year from now when you all join us in Israel. And I text messaged her on WhatsApp and said, how's everything going over there? And she wrote back, everything's really good. We're heading for a small vacation into Egypt. Exactly. I wrote her back and I said, isn't that funny that on the holiday that we celebrate leaving Egypt, you're going on vacation there? As Jews, Passover brings to mind images of angels passing over the homes of the Israelite slaves in Egypt, of plagues of locusts and blood and boils, and of the great crossing of the Red Sea as our ancestors escaped from the Egyptians. As children, we learn that Passover is the time of year when we're not allowed to eat bread and other yummy foods, depending on what part of the world you live in. Beneath the stories we learned as children, however, especially this year, we find a deeper meaning to this holiday. In the book of Exodus, God instructed Moses to charge the Pharaoh to, quote, let my people go. Moses, unsure of himself as a leader, begged God to choose someone else, while God reassured him that he was the one that God had chosen to lead the Israelites out of slavery into freedom. Sometimes, or perhaps even more than not, it is the leaders who are less sure, shall we say less ego-driven, who are the ones most apt to be the best leaders. Last week, or now a week and a half ago, I received an email asking me what the heck was going on in Israel. The news was and is still confusing, agitating, and frustrating. For the past 13 weeks, streets throughout Israel have been filled with thousands and thousands and now millions of Israelis protesting the government and what is perceived by many, including me, as a tremendous overreach for power and a real threat to the future of Israeli democracy. With each new week, the size and intensity of the protests have grown. Remember when I was in Israel like 6 weeks ago and I joined a protest of like 10,000 people? Multiply that by 10 now or more. At the beginning of last week, Prime Minister Netanyahu summarily fired one of his ministers for suggesting a change. To quote my dear friend and liturgist Alden Solovey, quote, "This wasn't just any minister opposing the change. This was the defense minister saying that the resulting rift in Israeli society is endangering national security, an important tipping point." As a result, the following things happened. Israel's consul general in New York, Asaf Zami, resigned with a note that said, "I quit." His editorial to the newspaper in Israel was 4 pages long. His resignation letter was, "I quit." Main highways have been blocked by hundreds of thousands of protesters. Israel's National Labor Union announced a general strike. Businesses and many schools were closed. Universities canceled classes. Departures were grounded at Ben Gurion Airport, which led to some cancellations of arrivals into Israel. You may be wondering, who will be today's Moses to lead us out of the turmoil being experienced not only by Israeli Jews, but Jews all across the world? So let me take a few minutes to explain, A, what is going on, and B, give you my own thoughts or ideas regarding the situation. In February, just 2 months after Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu took office, again, a sequence of reforms was proposed by the Likud party of the Israeli government, the Knesset. While I was in Israel for the CCR conference toward the end of February, we had the chance to meet with Rabbi Gilad Kariv, the first Reform rabbi in the Knesset, who said, quote, "Judicial reform? No, overhaul." There are 5 main components of these judicial reforms. The override clause. The Israeli parliament would be able to override Supreme Court decisions with a simple majority of 61 votes out of the 120-seat Knesset, of which the ruling party right now has. 2, appointing judges. Prior to this overhaul, the Supreme Court judges in Israel were chosen by a committee of 9 members. 3 current Supreme Court judges, 2 representatives of the Israel Bar Association, and 4 members who are elected representatives, 2 ministers and 2 Knesset members who are not ministers, they're just regular members. If these reforms are passed, however, the 2 reps from the Israel Bar Association would be replaced by 2 public representatives who are chosen by, guess what, the justice minister. Meaning, the ruling government would have 9 out of the 9 seats in the committee when it comes to appointing new Supreme Court judges. Number 3, earlier retirement age for justices. Today, the Israeli Supreme Court has 15 judges who would serve until mandatory retirement age of 70, unless they are removed from office or choose to resign from office. The judicial reforms would lower the age of retirement to 67, requiring 4 of the current judges to retire. And those 4 judges would get to be chosen by the current Israeli party government. 4, test of reasonability. This one just blows my mind. The Supreme Court would no longer be able to judge Knesset legislation, appointments, or other government decisions on the grounds of reasonability. What that means, folks, is that the Israeli Supreme Court no longer would have the ability to, quote, veto certain laws. Imagine that. And 5, legal advisors. The law would be changed to allow government ministers to appoint their own legal advisors. Currently, ministers in the government in Israel get counsel from advisors under the Justice Ministry, aka the judiciary branch. These reforms would mean that government legal advisors would also lose the ability to make binding decisions and would only be able to offer advice. So the Justice Ministry, the judicial branch, would lose the ability to tell the government, you can't do that because it's illegal. They could only say, well, it might be illegal, but do what you want. In a nutshell, these reforms would effectively give the ruling coalition full control over the first 2 Supreme Court appointments in its term by changing the makeup of the Judicial Selection Committee. Also, the High Court would be blocked from exercising judicial review over basic laws, instead making it possible for a simple majority of the government to completely override the Supreme Court's decisions, thus no longer having checks and balances between the judiciary and the executive. To quote Alden again, the only thing that protects the rights of minorities in Israel is the judiciary. This is the main fear on the left. And don't think left and right like we do in the States. It's slightly different. What most in the U.S. don't understand is the thin line between the executive and legislative functions of government, and the fact that we, Israelis, don't have a constitution, meaning that the only check on the power of the government is the judiciary. No longer would the High Court be able to judge cases by reasonableness, which allows it to block government decisions that are based on political or personal interests over public interests. The legal advisors appointed by the individual ministries would only be able to offer advice rather than deciding whether something is actually legal or illegal. Again, the power of governance would fall strictly on the ruling party, taking away the vital role of checks and balances in the Israeli government. And if you don't think that that's a problem, let me express to you that the current prime minister, if things were left alone, would be going to court for probably a long time because he's under investigation for many, many problems. However, if these judicial reforms get passed, his ruling party can say, bye-bye, investigations. In our sacred text, we read of the Pharaoh telling Moses to take his people out to spare him the pain of further plagues. God hardened Pharaoh's heart time and time again, while the Pharaoh changed his mind over and over and over, bent on making life even more difficult for the Israelites. What will be the final plague or straw that will allow this generation's Moses or group of leaders to lead us out of this turmoil into true freedom for all? Throughout our history, we have had many, many opponents. What do we do when the opponent is from within our own people? Member of Knesset Merav Michaeli, the chairwoman of the Labor Party in Israel, said that Netanyahu uses negotiation to get what he wants while dragging the other side through the mud. She stated, quote, "In order to save Israel, we need to take it back to the Zionist vision. Zionism is about democracy." It seems as if every time we have had a fight or an unbeatable opponent, God came through in the end to save the day. Who will partner with God now to bring Israel away from the brink of disaster? And by the way, these terror attacks happening today are a problem because the military is not reporting for duty because they're striking against the government. What happens if one of the countries around Israel decides to take advantage? We are partners with God. We need God, and God needs us, and we need each other. Pesach is about remembering. It seems that we speak of remembering an awful lot as Jews. We remember the covenant with God. We remember the Exodus from Egypt. We remember the Sabbath day. We remember the Holocaust. Pesach is not just about us remembering. God also remembers. As we remember our covenant with God, let us also remember that it is up to each of us to facilitate our relationship with God and to continually remind God as well as continue to remember our own relationships with each other. May we stand together with God to support our brothers and sisters in Israel while they fight for what is just and right. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. We continue in our prayer books on page 282. Akiva and Danica. Young man, what's your name? Behind Michael. What's your name, little man? Adrian, will you come on up here for me? Isis was in here. I don't know where she is right now. Okay. Please rise for the Aleinu, page 282. Aleinu Shabbat.
משפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Please be seated. That kid's got an arm. Let's read responsively on page 293, excuse me. Yizkor, we remember our people who suffered and died so that we could be free and secure. May their memory be more than a distant shadow. Remember our brothers and sisters whose sacrifice kept the dream of democracy and justice alive. May their courage be our inspiration and strength. Remember the fallen of our armed services, the victims of terror and tragedy. May the darkness of their loss not obscure the light of peace. They were in love with our land and in love with life. This Shabbat, our congregation commemorates the death anniversaries, the yahrzeits of Bertha Russo, Betty Grief, mother of Harriet Brinker, Judith Simpson, mother of Wayne O'Mell, Judith Beck, sister of Rita Hoffman, Wolf Kreuter, grandfather of Michael Kreuter. Ilsa D. Berger, friend of Joseph and Christine Swit. Robert Handelman, father of Larry Handelman. Katie Olstein, grandmother of Arnold Olstein. Ruth Schneider, sister of Eli Rockland, aunt of Mark Rockland. Gladys Holtzman. Rosa Lee Fleischaker, mother of Kay Fleischaker. Joseph Rutkowski, grandfather of Michael Barron. Harry Turkin, father of Carol DeWitt. Esther Aharoni, grandmother of Rachel Lecoq Etheridge. Ronnie Jacobs, friend of Rachel Etheridge. Rabbi Bob Kurtzner, friend of Rachel and of myself. And Kent Petzold, the longtime organist for the church. If there's another name that you'd like to add to our prayers for memory this evening, please raise your hand. Please rise together. We join on page 294 for Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah v'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei techol beit Yisrael ba'agalau v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'rechu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimrumav, huya asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for a blessing as we say together again, amen. Please be seated. I think it's off. You can turn.
All right. I want to remind everyone, tomorrow morning we have our Saturday morning service right here at 10:30. And next Friday night at 6:15 here, we will have a Yisker service. As Rabbi mentioned, the choir director and organist from the church passed away this week. There will be a memorial service for him on the 15th at 10:30 in the church if anybody is interested. On the 22nd of April, we're going to have a movie night with the church, and we're going to show Ruby Bridges. This is the one that just recently got banned because, anyway, it told the truth. So you might want to come. It was a Disney movie. It's kids. You might like it. We continue to have a food drive, and we're doing it with Westport or to help Shy and the ROTC. Please bring canned goods. We're starting to finally get some in the boxes out there. Our active shooter training is the 30th of April at 2:30 right here. Sisterhood General Meeting is on the 23rd. You all now should have, it was in the bulletin, we have a bunch out in the lobby area, ballots for elections. You're welcome to fill them out, and you can put them in the ballot box, the donation box. You can drop it off with Vanessa. You can come to the meeting and vote. That would be, that would be ironic. Come on, let's come to the meeting. Let's see what else. The usual people are here. Amy Schwartz is here. If you're interested in trees, if you want Toby for Union Grams, Rochelle Brahman, and Jackie Colcott for a Judaica store. Also, let me make sure that you know who is doing. Onik tonight is for Sit By Sisterhood for Passover, so everything is legal. You can eat. The flowers tonight are Betsy Brody in honor of Michael's birthday. Happy birthday again, Michael. Mildred Osteen in honor of Arnold's birthday. Eli Rockland in honor of Sandy's birthday. And Fred and Ann Conley in honor of their 52nd anniversary. And Shabbat Shalom.
And I didn't put this in the announcements because I like to say it myself. When you first came into the sanctuary, you probably noticed that big standing flyer that says that Temple Beth Shalom is going to Israel. Bach and I would love to have you join us. We're not going to pay for you, but we'd love for you to join us anyway. We're hosting. We're not paying for you. Maybe we'll buy you a meal or something while we're there. If you have a cell phone, you can. There's a little QR code. Thank you, on the bottom of the flyer, of the thing outside, the banner, poster, whatever it is. You can take a picture of that. It takes you right to all the information you need. It's going to be a fantastic trip. We already know that there's members of our there's friends of ours from Atlanta who are not Jewish are going to be joining us. Members from my congregation growing up as a kid are going to be joining us because everyone is going to Israel. If you have any questions, please feel free to talk to me, not tonight, but send me an email. I'd love to have you come with us. Our closing song is Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, a very special version. Please rise. Hineni mukhan umzuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat haomer. I'm ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer. Hayom sheni yamim laomer. Today is the second day of Omer, which is 0 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. Amen. See you in the social hall.